Say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our channel. I'm Mrs. B.
And I'm Mr. B.
And for a long time we have gone missing. I don't know where actually we went. But as we told you in our last video, actually we were working on a certain project. And now today, I want Mr. B to give us a story on a certain journey that we had recently, the experiences and the shenanigans. See, the journey vehicle, closing from one country to another. Well, that was crazy. Now, I want Mr. B to give us the experience of transiting from Kenya to another country that he's going to tell us. How was the experience? And mark you, it was transiting by bus. Not even by plane. So, Mr. B, hey, where have you been?
Yeah, I've been up and down.
Doing what?
Doing a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our viewers and our listeners will be able to understand what we've been doing after some time, because we are going to make sure that those videos are dropping daily.
Okay.
Yes.
So are you promising there was say that actually you are not going again to be, well, you people, where did you go? Where are the videos? Are you sure?
Yeah. More quality videos
Uh-huh.
and more information about our life.
Okay. By the way, you traveled, where did you go? Tell us what happened.
I had an impromptu visit to Uganda.
Yes. The land of Museveni. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the land of Museveni, and I had a few hurdles that maybe I would like to share with our viewers, and it's funny. It was annoying, but it turned out to be very funny, and I enjoyed, I can say. First of all, my passport is old.
You mean Mr. B that you people said that if you have not renewed your passport, kindly go and renew the passports. The whole passport person, tell us.
Please don't keep on postponing that I'll renew tomorrow, because the journey will just come and you will not be ready. So the first thing is, someone advised me that if you want to journey to Uganda, you can go and apply. You can apply a temporary passport or something, a temporary visa, I think.
Permit.
A permit to Uganda. When I went to the cyber, I think it was on a Sunday or something, they asked me to go to Huduma. It's closed. And I can't remember some of my passwords. They are nowhere to be seen. I cannot change anything. I'm just there and I'm confused. I don't know what to do.
But Mr. B, why was Huduma closed? You must have gone there on a Sunday or on a Saturday?
Yes, it was on a Saturday. That's what I'm saying. It was on a weekend, I remember. It was on a weekend. And so that's why I think my problem started. And of course, I had to ask a few people, where can I get the bus to take me to Uganda? And I was going to a place called Mbarara. So someone told me, you take a bus that will go to Kigali. So I went and asked the price, and it was slightly higher. And then I was called by somebody else, don't say Kigali, just say Mbarara, and the price came down a little bit. So I was able to book, and I was so worried. I didn't know what will happen at the border, the Busia border, because at that time I have my old passport, and at the same time I didn't have the corona certificate. So I had those two problems, but I had those messages to show that I was vaccinated. And those people at the border will just wait for any slight mistake so that they can make you suffer. So I was just going. At the same time I'm trembling. I don't know what will happen. And I went. I used the bus. I was not happy with the bus, I just want to say.
What happened? Why were you not happy? Were you not excited to go to Museveni's country?
No. If I was not excited, of course, I could have not gone. But I've been to Uganda a few times, and I was so excited because I was going to the western part of Uganda. Yeah, so I was so excited. But now the problem with this journey was that the bus that we used is a little bit funny, because it doesn't have stations along the road. And they just reach somewhere and they tell people to go to the bush and I don't want to mention what they go to do. And what annoyed me most is that, when I was traveling, I was able to engage a few people in that bus, and I was able to note that the doctors, and when I say doctors, I don't mean daktari. I mean people with PhDs. They were going for some engagement in Uganda. So it was so annoying and ashamed seeing a doctor, a woman or a man who is a doctor, elderly, going to forest to urinate, And I was like, this bus looks kind of orderly when you look it from a physical view. Why don't they organize something like they can have places where people can comfortably go to urinate or help themselves?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was so surprised that they could easily pick people on the way. As in, I was so terrified. I've never used a bus that behaves like that, because I was like, and what if, okay, it was a security breach. What if there is these bad people, thugs, robbers, who disguise themselves as good people? They want to use the bus and then they hijack us. They could pick people in the middle of nowhere. And
Is it at night
yes,
or
at
during the
night.
day?
Yes, because we started our journey at 2, almost 2:30 p.m. And
Oh.
yeah, most of the time that we were traveling was at night, because the 12 hours of the night we traveled.
Mhm.
Fortunately, after reaching the borders of Kenya and Uganda, they didn't pick anybody, but within the Kenyan soil they were picking everybody who was just saying, who was stopping the bus, and I was so surprised.
Could it be like some people had booked? There's this tendency, Mr. B. Sometimes, if, for example, I'm in Remy, say Kakamega, and I want to use not Kakamega. Remy, say in Maseno, and I want to use the same bus to Chigari. I would just call the Nairobi office and I tell them I'm in Maseno. I want to go to Chigari, for example. So you will pick me at Maseno. Could it be that those are the people you were picking along the way, or it was just this normal passenger thing? That this is the money that belongs to the conductor and the driver.
Yeah, it was both, because for people who had done such bookings, when we were arriving at where they are, you could see them just entering naturally. But the other people, you could see them even bargaining the prices. That one told me that these are random people,
Okay,
who are just maybe being ferried from one region to another, and then maybe the beneficiaries are the drivers.
wow.
Yeah, so that was a security breach that I saw, and it kept on ringing in my head, and even I was planning to do an article on it or go to their booking station and talk about it, but I just decided to hold on because of the reasons that I'll come to explain later. Yeah.
And now you didn't have a passport, you didn't have a COVID certificate. Your passport is actually old. It's the old school passport. And right now, to enter East Africa community, you will need the East Africa community passport.
Yeah.
If you don't want a lot of documentation at the border. Now you are reached in Busia. What happens?
Yeah, so we reach Busia border, the bus parks, and then they tell us to make a queue. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of luggage, so they didn't tell me to take my luggage somewhere for maybe sorting out. So when I reach there, I produce my documents, and there's this gentleman who approaches me and tells me, "Young man, your passport is old, it will not be used." And I'm like, of course I knew, and I don't trust him. He told me, "I can go and help you get something." And then there was an elderly man seated somewhere just near. He told me in Swahili that just give him and do what this gentleman is telling you. So the man asked me 500 shillings, is like $4 or something. And then he goes and prints something and brings back to me, and even gives me back my change, because I had given the guy a 1,000 note. So the guy is genuine. So he brings me that something, printed my name and something. And then I continue making my line. I'm not sure, because it doesn't even appear official. I don't know, and I didn't trust, but I said whatever be, it will be. When I reached inside the room, I was so happy to notice that they had written, you don't need a COVID certificate to go to enter Uganda.
That is where
So,
you say hallelujah.
hallelujah. So one of the hurdles came out of my way. And I reached there, I presented my documents, and fortunately, they didn't ask me much. They just looked at it, and it looked as if it's okay. Then that is the Kenya. Now I went to the Uganda now. They asked me, what are you going to do in Uganda? Of course, I just told them something random. And yeah, I was able to go through, and then went back to the bus. I've traveled for approximately 9 hours. Approximately 9 hours to Busia. Now, I go and make another line now so that I can enter the Museveni's land.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wow, that was great. So it means actually, despite the fact that you didn't have all the documents from Nairobi, by the time you were in Busia,
Yeah.
you were able to sort your issues out, and now the COVID start wasn't a problem actually.
It wasn't.
Now, you are in Museveni's land. How long did it take you from Busia to Balala, where you were going?
I can't exactly approximate how many hours, but I reached in Barara at around 11 a.m. the next day.
Wow.
So maybe 10 hours. I can approximate around 10 hours, 10, 11, but I'm not sure. But I can remember I reached at 11 a.m. the next day.
Anything exciting new you realized or you noticed in Uganda, vis-a-vis Kenya?
I've been in some countries around East Africa that I don't want to speak much about, but I could feel the genuine love of Ugandans to Kenyans. I could see that they see us more as their brothers, unlike other African countries. And of course, from the way we speak in Uganda, I think they use their national language is Kiganda. If I'm not wrong, I can be corrected. And then I think the language of the elites is English. The way here in Kenya, the national language is Swahili, and the language of elites is English. But in Kenya, more people who are not elites can speak English comfortably, unlike our brothers in Uganda. That's my perception. I'm not sure if I'm wrong or right, but
is it
yeah.
The intonation? Because I'm aware that we have different accents in terms of English speech when it comes to different countries in Africa. Could it be the intonation part of it?
No, it's not about intonation. I don't think it is intonation, because we've been in different countries and different people speak English using different intonations, and we can understand. But for example, let me give you a living example. If you are in Kenya and you meet a boda rider in Kenya, that boda rider will be able to speak to you good English. Let me say a middle class kind of English, will be able to communicate. But I had a problem when I was using motorcycles in Uganda, because majority of them they just know how to say hi. Okay. And that's enough for them. But they speak much of that Uganda, and that's one of the problems that I met, because I think the town that we were going is a little bit a rural town, and majority of only the elites could speak good English. And I remember I went to the bus station and tried to ask about the fare back home, and the guy there, the one who was attending to me, could not speak any word in English. In fact, when I asked the price, he wrote for me the price down. I almost ran into shock before I realized that that's Ugandan man and not Kenyan man. Yeah, they could not speak in English. For example, if you tell them, for example, let's say it is 150,000 Ugandan shillings. If you make a mistake of saying 150,000, you will confuse them. You have to say 150,000. You will be agreeing with them.
Okay, yeah. That's nice. I wanted to find out in terms of, now that you've spoken about boda, it lets me know that actually you were able to use the public transport. Mm-hmm. What difference do you spot before we close the show and we give another part of your journey in another video?
Thank you so much. Okay, of course, when we speak about such, let us start with the positives. What I noted about the boda sector, they observe traffic laws. Wow. 100%. Mm-hmm. That one I give them a tick. If it's red, they'll stop. If it's green, they'll go. They will reach a diversion and they'll stop, and they'll try to look both sides before they can come. And they are so organized. and the pricing is the same. They'll always tell you 1K, 2K, 3K, and they'll always tell you rightly. If you ask person A, person B, all of them will tell you the same pricing, and I was so happy about it. On the flip side, if you go to Uganda and you are looking for a taxi, don't think it's Uber. I'm not speaking about Kampala, my people. I'm speaking about Mbarara, where I went. Maybe in Kampala and other major cities, it will be different. But if you ask for a taxi, I remember when I reached Mbarara, I was going to a place called Ishaka. That's the western part of Uganda. And I wanted to ask somebody, and I went to this. I think the Kenyan version is cool. The Kanjo people. The Kanjo people, because
the municipal.
Municipal, yeah. So I went and asked him, hello gentlemen, I'm looking for a means to reach Ishak and I want a taxi. And then he showed me a gentleman that followed that one, meaning he's a trusted guy. And he told me, taxi, taxi, taxi. And I was so happy, hey, taxi, taxi. Only to go and get a matatu. A matatu, and it's written on top, taxi. So,
okay,
yes,
for them, taxi is the public transport system.
Yes.
That actually carries people from the capacity of around 5, 6, 7.
Even 14 to
even 14 seater. So for them, if you go to Uganda, unless and otherwise you say maybe you need a private taxi,
maybe
that's the time you'll get like this Uber thing, all the taxis that you've gotten used here in Kenya. But if you just say taxi, then it is the public matatu. That we normally have here in the country.
That's
so
right.
What did you want to tell us? I think we will do another video.
Yeah.
You tell us about your experience in Uganda in terms of food, in terms of culture. You know, we want to see what you saw. What do they have in terms of cash crops, in terms of food crops? You know, all those other things.
Yes.
So, what do you have to tell your fans?
When I arrived at Ishaka, and that's why I was able to note that the rural part of Ishaka and the rural part of where I come from in Kakamega, they almost seem the same. I just felt that I'm in my home village in Kakamega, and that's how I discovered that East Africa was just one community.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that is it, guys. It is Mr. B with his travel fiasco, right from not having a right passport, not having a certificate, and COVID certificate, to using a bus that stops along the way to pick people like a matatu system. But going to Uganda, discovering new things, a very disciplined boda workforce, etc. We engage him in the next video for him to tell us the great Uganda, how was his experience during his stay in Uganda, and what can he recommend for people who want to visit Uganda, especially the western part of Uganda, specifically Mbalala. So stay tuned and let us meet next time.
Bye bye. See you again.
Kindly subscribe.